pictures which might have a connection, do that kind of stuff. That's why you have to get students into this text, because if they don't bring their hearts into the text as well as their minds, then not much is happening really. And I think all of us want our classrooms to be heart and minds kind of place. Here's another text. So was that anything like you guessed? Does that make sense? Did you think something like that was going on when you read the last one?
No.
It's quite extraordinary. This, by the way, obviously you saw the photograph, it's an absolutely true story. It's an extraordinary story. The people in the next door flat didn't know the boys existed and the girl. They didn't know. They weren't allowed out. The only person who could leave the apartment was Oscar, the father. And these boys grew up. Oh, by the way, he believed because of his beliefs were a bit have been being a bit strange. He believed no one should ever cut their hair, so that's why they had the hair down to here. And why do you think they were all wearing the black suits and the black ties and the black shoes and the white shirts? Any guesses? Which movie are we thinking of? No. Reservoir Dogs was the movie. One of their favourite movies was Reservoir Dogs. If you haven't seen it, what I'm saying now means nothing at all. And if you have seen it, you'll know that they all dress in the white shirts and the black ties. Anyway, enough. One more, because how are we doing? Oh, we're not doing terribly. Okay, here's another one. Finally, not to keep you in suspense as it were any longer, and the last text is this. So there we are, there's a story, and we've asked the students to discover this story, to co-construct this story by reading them, giving them little migajas, little crumbs of the story, and getting them to kind of put them together, to create a story together, and a story of true strangeness, a real story in today's world, a story of true strangeness. Because what emerges is that these boys, their understanding of the world was through watching movies. That's how they understood the world. They never went into the world. Their mother did her best. She gave them lessons, but she wasn't allowed out either. So they never went out into the world. So their entire understanding of what the world was like was through the movies they watched. And what they would do, these boys, is they would actually write down the dialogue from the films by hand, so that they had scripts of all the movies, but they wrote them because they couldn't get the scripts because they didn't have any connection to any internet. They wrote down the scripts, and then they made their own movies. They made Batman costumes out of cereal packets and so on and so forth. So it's an extraordinary story. So we live in 2017. Well, one of the things we know about 2017 is, except in certain situations in some countries, like China, Iran, places like that, you can usually get onto YouTube and get onto Vimeo and things like that. And what we know is that if students post something online in English, they will do it with more care than they will ever do if they give you a composition. Because if they post it online where people can see it, they don't want to lose face. Of course, we have to be a bit careful about that. student safety, student security, etc. However, one of the things that we both like the idea of very much is to steal the whole business of the YouTube generation. You know about YouTubers, right? Well, my best friend's son, when he was 16 or 17, had 550,000 followers on YouTube. And he would sit in front of the camera and say, "Hi, well, today's Tuesday and I'm feeling a bit rubbish today, but, you know, maybe tomorrow will be better." And all these teenagers would watch him and go, "Wow, that's really interesting, wow." And that's how the YouTuber thing would first happen. People sitting, talking to cameras, just talking about themselves. Now it's become more sophisticated, because Chris is now in his 20s, but now it's become more sophisticated. And YouTubers have, 16, 20, 25 million followers. And they sit there saying, "Wow, today's Tuesday, I'm feeling a bit tired." And everyone's going, "Wow, that's so interesting." So why don't we get the students to do that as well? Get them to act out a little scene. Get them to act out a little scene from a movie, for example, on YouTube and post it. Why not? Just like the Angulo brothers used to do. Or get them to give their reaction to the story of the Angulo brothers. What should we do with Oscar Angulo, the dad? Should he receive any punishment? Do you think he did a bad thing? Do you think he was a good father or a bad father? Well, it sort of looks like bad, doesn't it? On the other hand, you might argue that if you wanted to protect your... Anyway, so those are three little things we have, and it's nearly time to go, but just before we go, Jane wants to do something.
Yeah.
And she's going to do something.
She is. I just wanted to finish with the last verse of the Sound Collector poem that I was talking about earlier. And I don't mean, yes I do. Can you...
Do you want me to tell me?
Just
Say
click
next.
it. Okay.
Click.
Oh, were you not going to say something about that?
No, you're good.
Click. Thank you. We haven't done this session before, we're learning. So I thought you would enjoy this as a way of closing our session. After coming into the house and taking away the various sounds, some of which you were talking about earlier, the stranger leaves, and it goes, "A stranger called this morning. He didn't leave his name, left us only silence. Life will never be the same." Now, what I'd like you to do is to think about, in a world of silence, which sounds would you miss the most? Maybe just take that thought with you. Thank you.
5 seconds to go. That is the end. Thank you very much for coming.